gotta introduce you.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe you can.
El hombre necesita su proper intro.
Yes. Well, here, let's start here.
I have warrants out, so I can't.
Yeah, Chris. This is my buddy Chris. So you guys know Chris.
That's right. You guys know.
I'm gonna be off the camera saying this because Chris was I was telling Julissa, you were the very first Latino winemaker on the Wine and Chisme podcast. You reached out to me on Instagram. You're like, hey, I got some wine. I want to try it out. I'm like, yes, please.
Like, my experience with you was so easy and fun, and it gave me confidence because, like, jumping into people's DMs, social media is not my thing. So I was like, hey, I don't know if you're open to
the DM slide is a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and she's like, hey, what's up? I get what you're doing, and I'm like, cool, all right. So I was excited after that.
And now we're here. Okay, then that was my bad. You guys know Chris already. I had the pleasure of meeting Chris today and tasting his wines and getting the recommendations. But above everything else, I am getting some knowledge along the way, which I absolutely live for. I just got back from the Napa of Mexico, Valle de Guadalupe.
Oh, nice, beautiful. I went there pre-pandemic. What do you think?
Oh, it was great. I want to go back.
Was that your first time?
It was my first time, and I want to go back. And now I have a better idea of how to do it. Because you pick up these. First of all, I didn't even know that there wasn't any ride share available there. So that's one thing.
Who did you go with? Did you go with friends or did you just go by yourself?
No. I went with a boo.
Oh.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a romantic ass day right there.
Yes.
Yes.
No wonder. Wait.
So, no, it was great.
I see why you didn't want to stop on the way back then, because I would have been like, hey babe, by the way.
Well, the thing is because he also had stuff to do, and that traffic. And I went to the A La Latina event that evening. That started at 6. So I'm like, I don't think I can time this out properly because I didn't realize that traffic from the border to get across San Diego. Oh shit, my hair's on fire. Oh my God.
We got it.
You want to take a moment?
Bloopers.
Oh shit. We don't have insurance.
Wait, let me double check and make sure it's just the Amazon ponytail, not my real hair. Oh my God. This is off to a great start already. Okay, it's the ponytail. Woo!
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You caught that, I mean, no pun intended.
I was
very quick.
I was about to open that bottle of wine.
I moved this I'm officially here. The hottest guest she's ever had. Wow! Oh my God!
Oh, I did forget this.
Ooh, if you guys could smell this,
you would know.
Not pleasant.
No. But you just instant. You felt that, girl.
So once upon a time on New Year's, my tia Patricia, she's pretty petite, and they had these long candles as a decor in my other tia's apartment, and she was all like this partying. And next thing, she knew her hair was on fire.
Oh, no.
So I instantly, my nose went right back to that moment.
Oh, no.
Okay, you have to keep that. That is pretty hilarious.
Okay, you heard that. We have to keep it.
Permission for that. Are you kidding me? That was too good.
Well, you know.
I was going to sign an NDA, but hey, not the fault of Wine and Wax.
No, it is on camera. It is not the fault of Wine and Wax.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? Before we get started with the actual wine, if you guys do not know who my lovely, beautiful guest here is, her name is Julissa Bermudez, and I'm sure, because of who my audience is, I'm pretty sure most people will know who you are.
The 40 and up?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool.
In fact, I was telling my friend, I'm going to Orange County to do a podcast recording. She's like, are you recording? So she's like, who are you meeting up with? And I told her, she's like, oh my gosh!
Oh, that's
she's
sweet.
famous!
Depends who you ask, but tell your friend, thank you. I send her some love.
But if you don't, let me give you a refresher. Julissa is a Dominican-born actress, veteran TV host, beauty influencer, and entrepreneur. She is best known for hosting some of TV's biggest pop culture shows as the first Latina to co-host BET's live countdown show 106 in Park. Then she went from BET to MTV. She's hosted The Hills finale, Jersey Shore After Hours, and related Jersey Shore special. Girl, I want the Chisme on that stuff too.
Oh yeah, I can't even believe they're re-airing that.
And you co-starred along with your BFF Adrian Bailon in Empire Girls, and I watched that.
Yeah, you're an Empire girl.
I'm not. I'm a San Diego girl, but you know.
Well,
yeah,
you're building your own empire.
That's right. So that's right.
That's really what we refer to. Besides, it was like a double play on.
Yes,
on the
yes,
word.
I am. But also, you have your Republica Skin Care, which I still have a little bit of a sample of that.
Oh, I gotta get, girl. We're going to my trunk after
that
this.
Wait, let me just tell you that I was telling Chris, she has the skincare. It makes your skin so soft and glowy. It really does. Like,
thank you.
I didn't need lotion after using it.
Yes, a lot of people say that. I'm still gonna sell you the lotion though. It's actually a system that I created, and the goal is to have that optimum Caribbean, hydrated, glowy, dewy feeling skin.
Well, yeah, if my skin can look like this.
No matter where you self-care, no matter if your hair goes on fire, minus the ashes, you can still glow through it. But yeah, essentially that was the idea, along with wanting to have something that felt very connected to my culture, to my roots, to where I was born. And I feel now, de vieja, as an adult, is where I'm really getting to know Dominican Republic, because I was born there but raised in New York and would go back as a kid. But you know, when you go as a kid, it's from one tia's house to the next, and that's not the fun part. Yeah. The fun part is going to the beach and all the other things. So now as an adult, I really get to go back, and my parents, they live there because they retired, and I can go and explore as much as I want without anyone. I'm an adult now, so without anyone telling me what I can and cannot do, for the most part.
Well, let's start.
My parents are still Latinos.
We're gonna still get into all of that, Chisme. We're gonna start with our tasting. So, Chris, where are we starting?
Yeah, so we're gonna start with something really light and fruit forward. Lodi is defined by how warm it is compared to other areas. We're not coastal. We're Central Valley. We're hot. We grow. It's a very fertile area, but Lodi before was known for big production wines, but there's also some small artisanal stuff. The first one you're gonna have is a white blend, Alvareño and Grenache Blanc. We're going for a fun wine, fruit forward. These wines aren't traditionally blended together, but Seis Soles is all about just having a good time, presenting Latinos with wine options that are a little nuanced and not necessarily as dry as some of the other stuff.
Okay, yeah, because we are not dry.
No. And let me tell you, this is one of my absolute favorite white wines.
Okay.
No joke.
I love a good white wine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when I sent you the voice note,
yes.
I love a refreshing and nice crisp.
Yes.
So is the proper way to put my pinky in the air or not?
The only
Oh,
way.
I don't put my pinky in the air because I have little hands.
We're not drinking, we're tasting. We're fancier.
Can you please differentiate what that means? The tasting versus the drinking?
Well, so for me, there's not much of a difference, right? If I'm tasting,
Me neither.
Yeah. But the idea is if you're evaluating a wine, you want to practice with the aromatics. That's why you swirl it, right?
Swirl?
The alcohol in there, some of it turns to gas, bring those aromas to your nose. And you can evaluate wines that way. Some are hard to cruise through. Some are like this one is, robust with a lot of fruit flavors. And then as you do that with a lower amount of alcohol in your glass, you can switch it around and beat it up really well. And then taste it, And so that's the idea behind tasting and evaluating a wine. Otherwise, my glass is full and I'm drinking.
I think I need some more of this in my glass, Chris.
Gotcha.
So while you're tasting the wine, you were born in, I didn't realize that you were born in the DR.
Yes, in Santo Domingo, the capital.
So how old were you when you guys moved to New York, and what was the reason that your parents moved?
So I was about 2.5, almost 3 years old. And honestly, I think it was a matter of the back and forth. My grandparents, they were living in Dominican Republic, but my grandfather, my mom's dad, was in the military and he was actually a diplomat. So he went through the ranks of basically being on the Dominican, military, and then working with the president during the time it was Trujillo, which, if you know any history about Trujillo and the Dominican Republic, pretty intense. So at one point, they gave him the option to basically uproot his family, and they chose New York. So that was very familiar to my mom, and then familiar to my dad. And they ended up in New York. My mom and my dad met in New York, and then when they decided to start a family, they had my two oldest brothers were born in New York, and then they went back to Dominican Republic. I think they pretty much had maybe enough of the New York ways, and then they went back to the island. They had me, and I'm the last one, so they had my brother that's before me, and then me, and then I think they just wanted a different change because of where the country was going. And I mean, I gave you like the super long history of that back to my grandfather, but my mom first came to the United States by way of her dad being a diplomat, and started off in Washington, D.C., so always the tri-state area kind of was where she was familiar with. And when it was her turn, I guess, for her and to start a family and everything else, she was, I guess, back and forth.
Nice. What do you think of the wine?
I really like it.
Yeah.
I can definitely taste the fruitiness of it. So what do I do with this? Do I drink it, the entire thing, or that's the part that I need to always
Well, it depends on you, right, as a personal. So these are 12% alcohols. These are lighter still. But, and I heard that you're actually pretty well versed in wine, right? You had some experience with it, so you know how much alcohol affects you, right? So it's more of a personal choice.
I
see.
Lighter
style, you can finish it, and if not, I have another one to show you, and we can switch it out.
Okay. So we'll do that.
So what I want to show you next is, I heard that you do a little more of like older world wines, European style. Is that what you're doing originally?
Well, I've done this research on obviously the amount. I'm sure I could research a little bit more, but ultimately I was trying to figure out, why do I keep getting headaches outside of the amount I'm drinking, because we all know that's obviously a thing to consider. But I started for some people, right? But I started to see all this research about sulfates and the things that are in wines and how that affects you. And then it was like, how it goes. They put this fear in you of like, you should only drink wines that are overseas and from France or from Italy. So then I went in this whole spiral of, I'm only going to drink.
Who wrote that? I wonder who wrote that.
Well, we can get political later, but I'm just saying, like, it started to, I could have brought this on all on my own and in my own head, literally, with like, I get a headache if I drink wines that are, from California or whatever, that aren't overseas.
Gotcha. But have you found that it does correspond? You drink old world wines, you tend to feel better?
I definitely feel a difference, okay. But I also recently was just in Valle de Guadalupe, which is what they consider, you guys know, the Napa of Mexico. And that wine was organic. It was straight up from the hotel was here. The winery was right there. Didn't feel a thing. And I drank and I enjoyed myself.
Okay.
And did not wake up feeling any sort of way of lethargic or hungover or any headache. Really, it was great.
Gotcha. I only asked that because I'm gonna show you this one. This is called Colibri, hummingbird.
Oh, okay.
This is 100% Carignan, so French grape. This specific vineyard in Lodi, 117 years old. Along the lines, natural, no additives, nothing like that. So this is as close to that style that you're talking about that I make. I make 2 natural wines. The rest of mine are conventional. I dig the natural. That's cool. It's not where I tend to stay. Most of my customers aren't as worried about that. But this is one that I wanted you to try.
Okay.
So 100% light Carignan. The vineyard's old, so it only puts out a certain amount of alcohol. So it's a 12% light red. So I serve it chilled.
Forgive me. Okay, that's another thing. With age, by the way, never in a million years that I think I'd be like so into wine, because I feel like this is an acquired taste, and when you're young and you're first drinking, you're like not even. I don't know. For you guys, it might be different because you guys really have an affinity for this.
Well, I didn't grow up with wine. Like most of our community doesn't grow up with wine. It's mostly like we grew up with like beer and tequila, and what wine was like. My mom had Franzia in the outside refrigerator.
I remember I bought my dad a bottle of Casillero del Diablo, and it was like, oh, the name I thought was so cool, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll get in trouble if I get him this wine, but it was good, and it's not that expensive, and I just started. I don't know. I got started with age. This became an acquired taste.
Sure. I mean, just like most of us, maybe when you start early on with food, you're hesitant.
Salud.
So now you're
Sounds
down
good.
to try stuff, right?
Yeah.
I always say you can't say you don't like something if you've never tried it.
Yeah.
But even if you've tried stuff, this is kind of where I was going with that. Is like when you're, I don't know, when I was younger, I would try wine, pero como que I think because it also felt very overwhelming. It's like all of this stuff that you need to know, the pairings, and if you order fish, then they say you have to order a white wine. If you order steak, it should. But then there's all these categories within the wine, so it just, I think when you're young and you don't really know what you're appreciating when it comes to wine, especially, you're just like, give me the shots.
No, well, speaking of when
This
you're
is great.
young, growing up in New York,
Yes.
you went to like an art school, right? Like an artist school.
Yes. So in New York, in high schools, we have specialty schools. I don't know if you guys have a lot of these here, but
They do in Dallas. I know, like there's certain schools that are like magnet schools.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
not sure. I mean, growing up here in San Diego, they didn't then. I don't know if they do now.
Yeah.
So
Very few of them.
yeah.
So this, so New York, they're not necessarily considered magnet schools. They're magnet schools. They're still public schools. However, they do have schools that if you have a certain interest or that you think that you do, they will basically fit those interests into the curriculum. So for me, it was a performing arts high school, and I was able to study theater arts along with still taking the other classes. They have aviation high school, they have science schools, they have a plethora, like all kind of schools where you can study a more of a niche career if that's what you're thinking about already, which is kind of great because you get a little bit of a head start.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, they think that when their interest is going to start in college, and like if you can start it even sooner and then realize actually this is not something I want to do or something I really want to do, but in this capacity versus that, because then
that's why in Mexico they don't go to like university then, like if you're going to medical school you go immediately. Like if you're going to this, like,
so at what age would you say, or what year, I guess, of school?
Like after you graduate high school, if you're like, oh, I want to, you know, instead of being pre-med, you just start going into like that already.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
they throw you right in the ER.
If you're here you go, here's a scalpel, there you go. But I mean, they throw you into more of those courses immediately versus just like, oh, you have to take your general ed and then your pre-med, like all these like other things that we do here. But I think doing that and having is so much better because it gives kids a real opportunity. What drew you into what drew you into performing arts of all of the other things?
I think having 3 older brothers that never paid attention to me.
You're like, I'm here.
Like, I want to play too. I joke around and say that, but it's for sure a combination of that. And my mom, I also joke around and say lives vicariously through me. She always had very big dreams and aspirations in the entertainment industry. And my grandmother just kind of had this stigma about the business. And I know, you know, the safer route.
Yeah.
So she, I feel like, never really let my mom fully fly and spread her wings to see how far she would go in the entertainment world. And I'm really fortunate to have parents that said, no, that's not the case. If we see that you have all this energy, this should go somewhere. They absolutely let me try it out and see if it was for me. And that is such a blessing because I know that's not the case with a lot of people and their upbringing.
Yeah, well, especially within the Latino community, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I've always say that I feel like there's two sorts of parents. You have the parents who were the entrepreneurs. So, okay, yeah, they have like, oh, we get it. You want to do this. You want to try this. Then you have my parents, right? Who are like, no, you need to get a steady job. No, you need to have insurance. No, you need to have a 401k. No, you need this.
Which are all amazing things to have. And with time, I'm sure you've appreciated that about your parents.
Yes, I appreciate that. But also I realized later in life that I've learned so much from so many people in these places that I've worked, but ultimately, like, and it was this weird combination, and it was like I never wanted to have my own business because I was like, well, I don't want to just be accountable to myself because maybe I won't do it, right? Having the podcast,
self-motivation,
yes, but having something like the podcast, it's like I'm accountable to my listeners, and I love doing this.
Yeah.
So it made it like so different, and it's made me like I don't ever want to go back into corporate. I don't ever want to go into corporate again. I want to be able to like, hey, yeah, it's 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm gonna drive up and have some wine, or whatever. Oh, I'm gonna be in New York for a week to prep for this event that we're having and everything. So I can,
I understand. I get the once you put something out there, by the way, especially with your name on it, it changes things for sure, because it's no longer just about the goal that started the wheels to turn and the spiral effect of from point A to B, and then you can stop somewhere along the way because hey, it's personal. Maybe you haven't really put it out there. No one really knows, but the minute it's out there, now you have community that you're building. They're engaged.
I know.
So the days you don't want to show up, you show up for them.
Yeah.
And it does make a difference.
It really, really does. I was, and I guess
but once you taking the steps and making it happen, even though you did go the checkbox route of doing making sure you had the 401k, making sure you had all those things, but then still saying, you know what, it's never too late to pivot.
That's such a huge thing. Okay, so you went to school, during the the theatrical arts and doing all of that. You said I want to go back, you're saying it kind of gives you a head start. So what were because New York, like that's such an amazing place to be, like just like if you're in LA. If you're in San Diego, yeah, you can do it, but you're still a couple hours away, still takes more effort. But being in New York and wanting that seems like it's like perfect ground.
Well, it definitely seems tangible,
right? It seems, but it also seems
still very fleeting.
Yeah, but how, as being not only being in this world that so many people want to be in, right? But also being an Afro Latina, because how did people look at you growing up? Did they look at? I mean, I'm sure in the Dominican community, you're Dominican, yes, but you go outside of that, people are gonna be like, well, are you Black woman? You're right. Like, I'm Latina, I'm this, I'm that. So how did you handle that growing up?
Well, growing up, I only really knew what I knew, which was the culture that my parents, who I thank so much for never feeling as if, although they knew how important it was to assimilate, never felt that not knowing where you're from, where you were born, the foods that we eat, the things that we celebrate, the ways in which we show up, how beautiful in the world that is to share. I'm so thankful that they never felt that they needed to take that from us in order for us to thrive. And that's where a lot of that authenticity, I feel like, that I try to hold on to as much as possible, which definitely when starting the career and having to explain to people when they do look at you and think you are this, but when you're really that. But then it's also a little bit of mix of what they think that you are. Honestly, when you're young and you're starting off and you have all this enthusiasm, and as you know, one goal breeds another goal, you start kind of snowballing into the tunnel vision of just more goals. And I don't even care what gets told until there's moments where you are told no, or you start getting feedback. And what is that feedback? And now this is feedback that is kind of unheard of, because I think it would have been a little bit different if me entering the entertainment world, more so on the West Coast and like other places that I hosted or like that I did jobs, was sort of like entering a high school being Dominican where you're the only person that of color there, or what I would imagine that feeling must be like, where you're the outsider, but you didn't really realize that until it's straight up pointed out, or you look around and say, oh, wait a minute, I'm the only one that looks like this. For me, growing up in New York, because it is such a diverse city, getting on the train, buses, public transportation in New York, you're mixed with everybody.
Yeah.
I grew up in Queens. There's pockets where big Indian community, Pakistani, Italian, Dominicans, and Colombians and Mexicans. Everywhere. So it wasn't really a thing that I felt that I needed to explain, if you will, until I started coming to the West Coast, believe it or not, because there's not a lot of Dominicans here. Certainly there weren't a lot in the entertainment industry. Afro-Latina, that's a term that now people are starting to understand a lot more. And I think the way that I adjusted to those things unknowingly was whenever I would go on and sit in a hair and makeup chair before I would go on TV, it was never my hair curly. It was always the blow drying, the flat ironing. It wasn't showing up exactly how, but that's also something within Dominican culture. I've been going to a hair salon, getting rolos in my hair since I was
Well, that's
8
something
years
you're
old.
still trying to embrace, right? Your curly hair, because I just like,
yes,
girl, I was watching your thing when you went to get it, and then you're like, how do I do it afterwards? Because getting it done is one. Girl, this has taken a long time, time to truly be able to manage. Because growing up, like now you have all these curly hair products.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, we didn't have those products, and nobody knew what to do with my hair, and it was a freaking
and that's
mess.
a big part of who you are and what you look like and the category that people put you in, because then I'm also in an industry where, especially when I first started, it was all about the breakdown. So they send the breakdown, which is what they're casting for, what casting directors are looking for. And it was so specific of what Hollywood or the people that were hiring for opportunities in front of the camera, what they thought absolutely this breakdown needed to look like. So if she's Latina, she's a cop, because there's always a Latina cop.
Yeah. With her hair in a bun.
That breakdown is always going to be out casting. So, they had a look of what they thought that should be. And here I come, more morenita, olive complected, curly hair, real curly hair. I'm talking coils. And then if I get submitted for the Latina role, they're like, oh no, that's not what we meant. Like, okay, so then do I go in? So then they'll submit me for the African-American cop. But then she has this accent. No, that's not what we meant. So now you start with your own complexities of, wait a minute.
Who am I?
Where do I fit in? So that's really, in the longest roundabout way, is what I meant by, I can only imagine that that's what it must feel like when you are the one of in the sea of everyone else looking the same or what have you. And let's say if I grew up in Middle America, I probably would have experienced that way sooner.
Yeah.
And would have known, or maybe not have known, how to adjust. So it's definitely been a journey.
Wine break. Time to refill that glass and come back for more Wine and Chisme.
Who were because obviously we're similar in age. We both check the over 40 box.
Yeah. Cheers. More wine, please.
Yes, where's the wine?
Chris.
That's it.
Who were the people that you looked like? For example, and I've said it before, when I found out Linda Carter was half Mexican, I was so excited. Wonder Woman's Mexican. Oh my gosh. But there was so little representation, even for light-skinned Latinas, right? But I'm imagining even as, an Afro-Latina, or just somebody who has more indigenous roots. Like, who were the people that you looked up to?
Well, particularly in the space that I started off in, which was hosting, honestly, there weren't a lot, but Daisy Fuentes, was someone that I completely thought
and she started in MTV Mexico.
Yeah, even Sofia Vergara that started in Fuera de Serie. I don't know if you guys remember that. That's way back. And she was our Brooke Burke. Yeah. When she did that series. And they still didn't look like me, but there were women that did. And it was like this woman, she was a host on BET named Rachel. Gorgeous woman. I want to say Rachel was Jamaican. Stunning. Downtown Julie Brown. I was really young, but I remember.
Who still has a show on XM Radio?
Oh, see?
In the 90s, on the 90s channel, because I listened to it.
Because I have 3 older brothers, they would put me on. So, yeah, there weren't really a lot.
That's so crazy.
But then with time, Jennifer Lopez was, are you kidding me? And still is.
Yeah.
Icon.
Wait, hey, speaking of, I've read that you entered some sort of contest. And,
yes.
Okay, so tell me about that. I was like, wait, I know there has to be more than Julissa that I know. So I was like,
oh, that search engine, right?
Yeah.
The J-Lo model search.
Was that for her first company, her first clothing company?
That was J-Lo Clothing. Yeah. She was looking for the face of the brand, and she went to different cities, and I ended up in the top 10.
Is this before hosting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I started and I ended up getting this manager who was in Long Island and very much local. I didn't even know the people she had discovered back then. Mm-hmm. I had no idea. And again, so green. There's a term in in the industry where they label you green because you're just so fresh. You're so new. You don't know what's happening, but you're bright-eyed and ready to go. So that was very much me. And she took me on as a client and became my manager. And I booked my very first commercial. And then it snowballed from there. I did a Wendy's commercial. Then she started sending me out on a bunch of different auditions. I ended up going for the J-Lo model search. I did not win that, but I did meet people that, to this day, Natalie Martinez won that. Until this day, she's crushing it, which always makes me so happy when I see one of my good friends, Mirtha, was also in that search. So I was just putting myself out there in all the ways, going on all of the auditions that she would send me. And then I booked my first hosting show and job, which took me to Miami for Mundos/Telemundo. And I did that for almost 3 years. Then went back to New York, BET, then under the Viacom umbrella, BET, MTV. And again, just it kept building and building.
So when you were doing this at Univision, was it hard to, obviously, speaking to your family and friends is one thing, but hosting on TV and stuff is very different. Was that a difficult transition in regards to the certain things that you would have to say versus not in Spanish?
Yes. Well, when I did, so basically Mundos it was a network that when NBC and Telemundo merged, they wanted to cater to the Latinos that
spoke English.
That spoke Spanglish.
Yeah. Okay, I remember that.
Where you're in your household, your parents are speaking to you in Spanish, but you're responding in English. So that was very much Mundos. And it was great because I felt authentically myself, completely could relate. And I was in Miami where that was the culture. Spanglish everywhere. They spoke to you in Spanish before they spoke to you in English. You forget you're in America when you're in Florida. Well, in Miami at least. South Florida, let's be very clear, because they will remind you in other places in Florida. But, and then you get reminded or told that then you're not, then your Spanish is not up to par, actually, because today is when, literally at this age, a year ago is when I hosted my very first show entirely in Spanish, because my way of speaking Spanish just couldn't cut it. It was too Americanized. It was the no sabo. It was all that.
Oh, I hate that phrase. Yeah. I hate that no sabo phrase.
That's all new. For us, it was Spanglish.
Yeah.
we mix it in because that's just how we naturally communicate.
Yes, because my mom and dad would say, so it was my parents would get in trouble for speaking Spanish. So they didn't want us. So they was English first in our household, but it was always like words, phrases, anything cleaning, of course.
Yeah.
Right? Is in Spanish. And then, but even my sisters would make fun of me because I still have a little bit of an accent when I say certain words. And my sisters don't have it at all. Like
I'm always fascinated by Latinas like your sister.
But it was also my friends were always Filipino, Vietnamese, Korean, and Latino. And their friends weren't very as diverse as my friends. And all of my friends, when I go to their houses, their parents mostly spoke Spanish. So they would just speak Spanish to me and I would answer to them in English. But there were certain words that just like sandwich, right?
Yeah.
And my sisters would be, it's sandwich, Jay. It's sandwich. And I was like, I say how I say it. Like, nobody's gonna.
Isn't that how you say it in Spanish too?
Un
sandwich.
So
that's not confusing at all.
So it was always really interesting. Like, I'm 5 and 7 years older than my sisters, but how we just diverted so much in regards to the friends that we had, the people we were attracted to, and the consumption of Spanish that we had around us.
So is their Spanish fluent?
No. Mine is okay. Like if I go to Mexico, you drop me in Mexico,
I always say yo me defiendo.
Yeah, there you go. But I'm not fluent. But I definitely have to translate for my husband. And he's darker complected. So you look at him and you would actually, I don't know. If I could be in a room with 100 people and they come to me and start speaking Spanish. So I guess I just give off my vibe.
It's the hoops, girl.
Yes. Hey, these are by Cadena Collective, by the way.
They're
Latina
so
owned brand. Their mom makes these.
Love.
I have these in white and purple. The purple ones are bigger.
Love it.
Okay, what did you think of
So what I told you guys, that's the second natural wine, Tempranillo. But we're going into the bigger, bolder style. So this is East Lodi, owned by a Mexican family, third generation. So shout out to Gerardo Espinoza, always growing beautiful fruit. This is a naturally fermented Tempranillo with no additives.
Okay.
Just naturally has a strong component. It's very, very big presence in tannins. It's 4 years in the barrel already, and I think still it has some time to age. So I really enjoy it. I released it 3 months ago. So another natural wine, no additives. Hopefully, although I think it's a more big California style, we're not putting anything foreign in there that hopefully doesn't, trigger any of those kind of headaches or anything we talk about.
So a wine like this one that you're pouring, for example. Oh, I should finish this one then.
That's the one that you're having.
I just already drank mine.
Oh, girl, you late to the game. Oh no, you poured it and you didn't give us the explanation. That's it.
Because we were talking.
Okay,
he poured it. He was low key while we were talking.
Right. First of all, that bottle is beautiful. All these bottles are so nice. Yeah. I mean the details.
Yeah.
And look at these are the first ones. These are now labels, right? Because they were etched before when you first got them.
These are screen printed.
Okay, they're screen printed.
Yeah. They're meant to go in ice chest. So yeah, I mean we shop with our eyes. So it's very much American, but with Mexican background. I want that to show through in the brand. A part of me wants to show that, but not be cheesy about it. So trying to incorporate it without being Pancho Pistolas, bigotes, all that shit.
I totally relate to that.
Style. Yeah, right.
Man.
Yeah. So
I need to cheer you on that one because when I tell you,
Chris,
that is something that as a brand founder and when I was creating Republica Skin, yes, very much wanted it to be, you need to know that this is a Latina that is the founder, but I want it to also be, no matter what shelf it sits on, you're just going to be drawn to it because it's a great looking product.
Yeah.
No matter what.
It's great looking and it's really great. It's just a great product.
But, visually first.
Yes, but like you said,
you can even try it. Yeah, you shop with your eyes.
Like you talk about your beauty products and wine, there's a sea of options. You got to stand out somehow. Now, as a personal brand, you got to find out whether you want to stand out because in a cheesy way, in a bright way, or a fun way. And that mix that you find that is personal to everybody, is what you put out there.
Yeah. Because there's a thin line with all of those things that you mentioned. The cheesy or the not too.
Yeah, because you could be like, man, I want this, but if you're not selling, you got to start considering what you're going to do and find that middle of the road where you have a successful business, something you're proud of, something that speaks to people, but not too cheesy, not too that,
and not too watered down from what you truly why you started it, right?
Yeah, not to sound like, oh, I'm trying to not be like seen ghetto because it's ethnic or what. That's weird. No. We're just presenting stuff how I like it, and without worrying about what people outside of our culture might say. This is more of what I like.
Yeah, this is really good. So I feel like this is the kind of wine that I would have a steak with, right?
Yeah, exactly. For me too, it's the same wine. It's robust tannin. It's drier, no sugar whatsoever, 100% natural. So some salty, like some fatty piece of meat would cut through those tannins.
I feel like this wine, the more it kind of sits, I don't know, it brings up different flavors too. Like it's when the initial sip, it's something, but then it kind of.
Yeah,
what do you describe that?
That's
it's like the journey of the wine
from the lips to where it coats it. By the time it coats your tongue.
Yeah.
Well, when you're tasting wine, sometimes abrupt what you taste first, and then secondary notes come there, and then we call it tertiary. And as you get to know wine, you start understanding where they come from. Now, if I get a nice creamy kind of like baking spices, vanilla finish, that's probably more oak, and that'll indicate whether you know it was oak or not, or if it has a strong fruit component. All those are things that you start learning, right? So I do enjoy that this wine in of itself, being natural, does have complexity to it.
Yeah.
So you do go through a journey while you're just sitting there and sipping on it, and it just shows really good fruit,
So I recently had wines that had sediments on the bottom. What does that mean anything? Like in what way does that indicate?
It might initially you just know that it might indicate some kind of age, technically, or the first thing that pops into my head. Now, if you evaluate it and it smells interesting, good, not bad, that means that sediment came from age and not from like bad storage, right?
Okay.
And usually what happens in wines, was it a red wine?
Yeah, actually all the wines, but I want to say it was their first or second harvest.
Sure. The older the wines get, just like any wine, they're going to start breaking down little by little. So white wines and rosés might start throwing tartrates, crystals. It's tartaric acid that's organic and it's part of the wine. It just solidifies, right? So sometimes you'll get white crystals at the bottom. Now you might get that in red wine too, because that same acid exists in red wine, but it also starts bonding with color pigments, red pigments. There's tannins. As these chemical compounds start binding, these chains get long enough that they precipitate. They come out of solution. And so all it is just a wine through its natural wine cycle is giving off either tartrates or tannins and color. It's natural, and that happens to every wine with time. And if you happen to see that and evaluate it with maybe an off smell or something, maybe it's just past its prime. But if you take a wine and otherwise it smells interesting and it tastes interesting, you have that sediment, don't worry about it. It's just a natural, organic part of it.
Okay.
You want to hear a fun fact about the little wine crystals?
Sure.
My husband actually, he found this place in Georgia, the country, that she collects the wine crystals and makes rings. So that's what he got. He ordered my engagement ring.
Oh, wow.
And they were with the wine crystals.
That's why I can never get married. I would never even think of that.
The details.
Right? Because obviously I'm a one, like he knows.
You say that, but you would.
You
would.
I think you would.
You
Chris.
would.
I think you would.
You say that now, but you best believe.
And he was like,
I'm a married girl. They didn't watch this episode.
Hey, that's one less view. No.
But here's the thing, like, because he was like, at first he was like, oh, I know I didn't. I'm like, this means more to me. Well, these are my mom's rings now. This is now third generation, represents 3 generations of Raya women.
Love it.
I was like, this means so much more to me because you thought about this. You went and researched it and found this woman in across the world, right? And got me this. Like, so I still keep it in a box and everything. And I was like,
so them days that you think you're over him, you're like,
revisit
actually, let me go find the box. Let me go look at my crystallized ring.
Exactly. So with all of this stuff, how did you even break into, because you went to the school, you started, like, does that give you an in regards to maybe I want to do this internship at this channel or this channel, or how do you get your in like, I feel like hosting is something that people that are already established get to do. So how do you go into that?
I mean, back then it was literally all about the audition and what you did in the room. It wasn't about social media numbers. It wasn't about the following that you already brought with you. Yes, of course, if you're a household name or you're a big celebrity or what have you. Or...
I know, because hello, I can host something.
Right, but which is the beautiful thing about nowadays, where you can legit build your own community, your own audience, your own production. Everything is your own. You don't have to wait on someone for the opportunity. You don't have to wait for the breakdown and what they think about your look and if you're going to go in for it or not, and all the other things that were being considered back then. So I started, just like I said, the woman that Malo Management that took me on at a young age. I was 18 and just started sending me on auditions. And I don't even think that she cared so much about the breakdown sometimes. I think she would just send me because she just wanted to get me in the rooms. And I've always thought that I was better in the room anyway, versus I'm like, just give me the meeting, just get me in the room, you know, and then I'll take it from there. But yeah, that's the callback, and then the chemistry test, and then the producer session, and then all of these steps before you get the job. That was the process back then. Nowadays, it's such a luxury to be able to start your own everything.
Right?
Oh my God. No one needs to co-sign you. You can have as big of an audience as whatever size audience, and you still can do something that you're passionate about and do it for as long as you want to and for whatever time you want.
So you were at 106 in Park. You went to MTV. You did these hosting things. What was the high and low of those experiences while you were there?
Oh, that's a good question. The high, I think, was a new goal was being unlocked, and opportunities that seemed as if they would never be able to be reached, or even that you would be considered for, or that you could make happened. And then the fear of keeping that going and feeling like, okay, at what point are they going to ask me to not show up like myself? Or at what point am I going to have to, I mean, there were obviously, just with everything else, whenever you are coming up in the ranks, or, you know, just being different in what they were used to hiring, you're going to have obstacles and you're going to have some challenges. But I think it was just that, like, the highs was very, very high, because now you're excited about whatever's new. And then when things start to change, when things end, when your contract's up for that job, and now you're like, okay, but then what's the next job? But then the phone calls aren't nearly as much, because now you're a little more viejita, and it's also, there's I know I'm giving you the reality.
I know, but
to
me,
here.
I know you are, but to me, I'm like, I look at you and I'm like,
but
how
you know
could
what I'm saying.
Yes, I look at you and I'm like, how could anybody turn this down?
Ah, you're so sweet. More wine. No, that's really, really, really sweet of you to say. But it's just the realities, you know. There's always new faces, always new everything. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of staying true to who you are, and like how much, thank you, you feel like you need to, quote unquote, sell out or not, or what's worth it, or what level of
integrity. You pour a little more there, Chris.
Or what level of integrity, I guess, you're ultimately wanting to operate out of.
I
think my upbringing helped with that.
Yeah, no, because even just with whatever you decide to accept has a lot to do. Because, for example, in my side, I've always said, if it's not something that I have used or would want to use or willing to try, then I wouldn't do an ad for it. Because to me, the trust of my community is everything.
Yeah.
And there was a point where I had McDonald's like 3 times coming to me, and then and I said no, because first I eat McDonald's every once in a while, and it's usually breakfast, because then if I'm in a hurry and I get one thing, I get sausage McMuffin with no egg, and that's it. I don't get hash browns. I don't get anything else. Just to get something in my stomach, and because it's there, right? And then they were doing something of, it's part of the community, the heart of the community, and with the high rate of diabetes within our community, I was like, no, it's not the middle of our community. So I did turn them down, because I was like, I know.
I would have sold out so fast.
Gosh, listen. I'm over here sitting like, should I mention that I just tried that chicken Big Mac?
Hey, it's okay to try it, right?
It was good. Oh, I love me some Mickey D's now.
Let me say.
No, more power to you. No,
but yes. Yeah. So again, maybe,
now if Del Taco came,
all right.
I'd be all about that.
So, okay, maybe at that point in your life or in the career, what you were building, you felt like that wasn't aligning with your current mission. Then yes, I totally hear that. And you have those moments. You definitely have those moments when you're coming up in the ranks and you're thinking to yourself, well, I see everyone else kind of doing those things. Do I need to do PR stunts? Do I need to do things that are maybe a little bit outside of what I know is in my core interests?
So did you ever, has there ever been anything that came to you that you were like, this is not exactly what but you did it anyways?
Yes. And then I justify it by figuring out the things that I can relate to in that. Because, mija, los biles, all within measure. I haven't done anything outlandish or crazy that, at the end of the day, I got 3 older brothers and my mom and my dad. Those are the ones that I really have to answer to.
Yeah, I get it.
They're the ones giving the real feedback.
I feel that, because to me, I'm like, I wouldn't ever want to do anything that my nephews would be like.
My nephew?
Yeah, that my nephews would be like, I need to disinherit the Ajay. Like, this is the salud your.
This smells strong.
So it's meant to be a medium tannin, but it is leaner, a little drier, a little more serious. Once again,
serious.
It definitely has that.
For the brand though, because once again, the brand's meant to be accessible. It's meant to be something you can enjoy, not something that maybe my tia might try one time, be like, I'll never try wine again. So this whole brand's meant to be approachable, but yeah, we get you to a point where we have a drier cap. I think it should happen.
This automatically makes me want to swirl it around,
right?
And act like I know that I'm opening it up and like letting it breathe, or maybe decanter. I don't know. Is this the kind of wine that you would do that with? Okay, see?
Yes, see, there you go, Julissa.
I'm catching on here. Can you talk to me a little bit about and if this theory is actually a thing, and if
the legs?
Yes,
I knew you were talking about the legs.
Because you can see that I'm looking. I'm like, this got some legs.
My understanding is that that might have come across a long time ago. There's a time when people were making wine, but they couldn't really evaluate how much alcohol is in it. Right? And in these old world wines, where these areas actually tend to be colder than California, a lot colder, sugaring up, actually getting a certain amount of sugar to get a certain amount of alcohol is a challenge for them. Not acid, right? And we're talking about these areas where wine originated. So those areas, at least if you had a wine, if you could swirl it and you had enough alcohol that could turn into vapor, and that creates water tension, and then when it breaks, that alcohol turns to liquid again and cascades down, which creates the legs.
Okay.
You at least knew that the wine was mature enough when it was harvested to create probably a more robust wine, right? So, okay, there's enough alcohol in here, which means it was harvested at a certain amount of date. It's a way of evaluating that, okay, they didn't harvest it too early. It's not too thin, which might shorten the life of it. Nowadays, does it mean anything? No, it's just people want, it's a fun party thing to talk about. We want to feel like we know about wine, so we're going to talk about legs.
That's exactly why I threw that out there.
But if people,
but I already
dang, the gig is up. I mean, I'm with experts.
I'll send you this clip, and you'll just be like, well, actually,
right.
in when wine originated, this is why they talked about the lakes.
But it's an incredibly common thing that we kind of share. We all want factoids to have a fun time.
Yeah.
And I try to pick my time and place to kind of interject what I read. Because at the end of the day, you also don't want to come across like, actually, you're wrong. I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
Actually,
no, that's not the fun guy.
Nobody wants to be the actually guy.
Yeah.
The only time I have fun with it is if a crew's there and one person's just kind of boisterous and trying to just show off and be mean to people.
I see.
I love breaking it down a little bit. But other than that, I cruise through wine. Let's enjoy it. Lakes, hell yeah, look for the lakes in there.
Okay.
Let's have fun with
See, I'm
it.
not the wine pro, but I'm the story pro. When it comes to your guys' stories, like the stories of the Latino winemakers and stuff, I'm a pro on sharing their stories, sharing their wine, getting people pumped up about it.
100%.
Where do you find the majority? I guess it's all over because you have wines and all over in South America.
Majority,
where would you find like the majority of the wine Latino makers?
If we're talking about the U.S., Napa Sonoma obviously is the majority. California holds probably, there's over 11,000 winemakers in the U.S. 0.01% are from the Latino community.
Crazy.
But we are like almost 80% of the agricultural. I think we're actually more than 80% of the agricultural community, but that's what it says, right? So obviously there's a huge disparity in regards to that.
That gap is wild.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
But a lot of these, so like Chris actually didn't grow up amongst the vines. It's something that he got interested in and studied and got into and was making wines for other people before he broke off onto his other thing. But there's a lot of people as well who have not only done that, but also maybe grew up amongst the vines. Their parents were part of the Bracero program and they were kids running around and they wanted to do something different and they wanted to do something else. And I'm sure, Chris, growing up, you didn't say, oh, I wanted to make wine. It was just something you started getting more knowledge of and fell into and started
Well, for me, I just literally took a job. I had a whole different career in mind, took a job, and that piqued my interest. Making wine was a passion of mine before I even enjoyed drinking. Right? So, yeah. But yeah,
very cool.
Didn't grow up on it, but there's all kinds of Latinos that are in it. I think every day there are actually more and more.
Yeah.
I'm just one of the few that kind of decided to leave my area and get out there and try to get the word out and do my thing. And that doesn't mean that how they're doing it is one way or another.
Right.
There are a lot of Latino winemakers on there, but you just have to be
intentional probably about
finding
finding
go find them. And which a lot of people in our community, it's not like they can go do a wine weekend.
Right.
I can't be like, hey, I'm gonna have someone take care of my kids just so I can go and to 100 miles away and find them. It's just not a luxury we have. So they're doing their part. I'm doing my part of just trying to find them.
Yeah.
Cheers to that. And
so
doing the part that we can do.
That's right. I mean, the thing is it's so important. It's up to us to continue to uplift one another, right? Uplift and amplify each other's stories. And that's honestly, I love doing that. I feel like I've been doing this my whole life. Like I was that kid. Hi, I'm Jessica. How are you? Tell me all about you. Now I just record it and drink wine. But
that's why when you came up to me, you're like, I never heard back. I'm like, who did you email? What happened? We're getting it done.
So me and Julissa actually met a couple years ago at the We All Grow Latina Summit. And I just went up to her. And here's the thing, mi gente. Do not, the worst somebody could say is no. But what if they say yes, right?
She said it with wine and chisme. I said, girl, heck
yes. She said, here is the email. Send the info. And then I sent something, and I'm not going to lie. I kind of psyched myself out a little bit. I was like, oh, she's not going to, But then knowing that you're Vanessa's, really good friend, and Vanessa's like, no, she will do it.
Yeah.
She'll do it, girl.
Vanessa.
And then we have another friend in common with Astrid as well.
Yes.
And I didn't get to see her last time I was in New York because she went to check on her parents in Atlanta after the hurricanes and stuff. But I just went up to her and I was like, I really love what you're doing and I love all your stuff. But also, I have a podcast.
And the name is so good. I mean, are you kidding me?
And she was like, yes.
Yeah.
No problem.
I've had a great time. Thanks for having me.
I know, yes.
This wine is one of these that I think you have to really sip.
It
and
is.
take
It's a
your
good
time
wine.
with. Wow.
Well, now you have, okay, let's talk about Republica, because now you have, like, how do you go from being a host, then you have your own reality show with Adrian Bailon,
Mm-hmm.
then you, like, start doing these other things. Like, where did the whole thing from Republica, how do you go from that, from being a host to now being this entrepreneur, and not just an entrepreneur, because I feel like a lot of, so yes, you are a celebrity, a lot of celebrities do, but in that specific thing, because people do the skincare, but yours is skincare, body skincare.
Yes.
So how do you go from that to from one
I
point to
treat
the
my body care like I do skincare. So if it's different steps, if it's whatever it is to get what I'm trying to achieve, right? Honestly,
and I've seen this woman in like the bodycon dresses at bodycon. The skin is always glowing, always glowing.
Thanks. Let me double check here. Todavía tengo del pelo quemado.
A little bit right here.
Honestly, if I'm going to be real with you, Jessica, it was the pivot. It was knowing that I started in traditional media, TV. It was changing at a rapid pace. People weren't watching it nearly as much anymore. Then the new wave of social media, content creating, YouTube, all of these things, these platforms that were taking over the world were just disrupting the industry. And I had to figure out in what way can I get myself involved and also show up in the best way that I feel like makes sense and organically show up. And then I started doing that. So the beauty influencer role then started to get thrown my way because I really pivoted into showcasing my love for beauty and the passion that I had behind it, from sitting in so many hair and makeup chairs and doing my own hair and makeup to be in front of the camera on red carpets when there wasn't a budget, to then, I mean, you learn so much along the way. And then Republica Skin really came about was when I was experimenting DIY at home. I wanted my skin to look and feel as if I was in the Caribbean, no matter where I am in the world, no matter what the climate is. I would go back to Dominican Republic, visit my parents, my skin glowing, popping, hydrated, back in New York because of the harsher climate. 6 months, 7, 8 out of the year, dry, ashy, flaky because of the harsh weather. And I said, no, I'm going to figure out how I can get my skin to look like that. And then my mom, and again, being my age where I can go back and explore my own country and where I was from, she's like, oh, pero tú sabes que en nuestro país, she was telling me about la caña. So in Dominican Republic, we have a lot of natural sugar cane. And I said, oh my gosh, sugar is such a great exfoliant and such a great way to give you that glowing, hydrated skin because you're taking off all the dead skin. So then I said, okay, well, what can I add to that? How can I make that work for me? And then I, as you say, inventando, I came up with a formula that I thought could be great, but I didn't know how to bottle that and then sell it. And so it was a long process, but it really started, to answer your question, was figuring out what was I going to do next that didn't require me having to be in front of the camera, especially on TV, because those opportunities were becoming less and less.
Yeah.
And ultimately where I can, sip wine with you and Chris and still have people buying Republica and making money,
If she was still on TV, she may not be here.
Those things that you think about when you start getting older. How can I have a leisure, that earn your leisure mentality?
That's what I'm working towards. Or I'm letting my husband work towards that.
See, when I find me one of those, or when one of those finds me,
I will say I wouldn't be.
I'll meet you there,
I wouldn't
girl.
be doing this or I would still be doing the podcast, but I wouldn't be focusing so much on the podcast and the things around it if it wasn't for him and how
Teamwork.
supportive. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean it's
partnership.
huge, but I mean, I always
And no, if I was still on TV every day, I would be here. Don't think I didn't hear that. But think about it.
Like, see, low key.
But think about it. Now, in 2024, almost 2025, there's no way a show like a music video countdown show.
Know. You think of
would
like
really
TRL,
work.
like that's
People
nothing.
are not running home to turn on their TVs to watch a video music countdown show.
Yeah.
A music video countdown show. They're just not, because the video is online.
Yeah.
And they're watching it on their phones.
You actually started It's Me, Julissa on YouTube.
Yes.
Are you still doing it?
I'm bringing it back for 2025.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
That was a production.
Looking, and I was like, I don't see anything for a minute. I subscribed to it today, by the way.
Thanks. So coming soon. But yes, that is, again, similar to you, where you created your own thing. I actually partnered up and with a network and a production company to do that show. And I just got the channel where I can start doing my own thing on it. So yeah.
So is it going to stay on YouTube or is it going to be somewhere else as well?
It'll be on YouTube, and then si Dios quiere, I'm more than happy to.
If you need somebody to come talk about Latina and wine brands, I'm here.
Yeah. Oh yes. We're doing this again for It's Me, Julissa. Actually, can we just edit 2 versions and I'll just do my intro? Right?
100%.
Oh my gosh, you've just done so much. What do you think is? I mean, obviously, you said you're starting the It's Me, Julissa again in 2025.
Yes.
What else is next for you?
I've been working on a concept for a show that I've had for a long time and developing that. So I also really want to get that out there in 2025. It is beauty based with other really cool elements to it. And I want to continue to grow Republica. It definitely takes a team. I am still in the grounds, working on getting it out there.
If you need help in Southern California, I can help.
Thank you. Yes, I do. I'm going to need the help everywhere, because ultimately it takes a team. And this is a self-funded passion project. And
that must be so hard because it's different when you have other people's money. But when you have your own money, like you really want to make sure it's like the best of the best that you can do.
Girl, when you have your own money, you're investing in it. And you also come from a Latino mindset of when you reach a certain point or when you reach a certain bank account number, what do you mean you're investing in something else other than the house for your mom, the this for your family, the that? All of those things go into consideration, and it's a even bigger gamble, in my opinion. So the thinking behind it was, well, when this that I know is because I know that I know that I know the passion and the curation that I put behind it, it's gonna work. It's gonna do its thing. What no one tells you is the timeline. And you also don't know what you don't know, because I have never been a businesswoman. Yes, in showing up. Anytime I've ever done business is because I'm showing up for the job. This is a different kind of business. Yeah. This is a business that takes logistics that I've never learned. I'm keeping it super real right now. I've never had a corporate job. So even writing emails can be sometimes a daunting task if you are reaching out to the head buyer of que sé yo qué company.
I mean, I don't have talk to the head buyers of things except the vintners, and I call them my vintners because they're mine now. And everybody else's, but they're really mine. But that's honestly why I went to a season format, because I was pumping out 50 episodes a year. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore, because July and August, people are on vacation. Downloads are always way down.
That's when I would take a break for It's Me, Julissa, was the summer.
And January, right after the holidays, they're down. So now I'm like, okay, I'll go September to December and then February through June. And I was like, now I can concentrate, because I've never really concentrated on the business part as well. Mm-hmm. It's always just been the creative part.
Yeah.
And
when you're a creative, that's, again, you know what you know, and then you just don't know what you don't know. And it's still a skincare business. It's still show business. It's still that business part. And you can learn as much of whatever skill set you want to learn, but there's also a reason why it takes a team.
And outside of your parents, who have been the most impactful people in what you're doing, and not just in your life, but also what you're doing?
I would definitely say impactful, and where it's direct exchange of letting me know temperature wise if what I'm doing is still operating out of what feels right, and like what how I'm showing up in the world. I would say is the community I've built by way of social media, the people that continue to tell me, oh my God, I used to watch you on this, and like till this day still rock with me. That for sure. But then I have a mentor that if it wasn't for him, I don't even know if I would have ever found the lab that creates my product, and to the level in which I was really specific about finding, because that's the part that took the longest for me. I kept getting samples that just wasn't right. I had a very tunnel vision, like laser focused way of what I wanted and how I wanted it for the brand. The performance and how I wanted, the efficacious way of it performing on your skin, the way it's like the formula and the proprietary blend that it is, that took a lot of time. I probably wouldn't have been able to achieve that. Maybe I would have, but it would have taken longer if it wasn't for my mentor. So I'm a huge advocate on mentorship. I love mentorship.
But so it's good to know even now, like you've accomplished so much, and you're like, no, I still need a mentor. I still want a mentor.
100%. And I am paying it forward now. Now I'm just started to show up in programs for mentorship for women, for young girls that are in high school, that are even older, to just figure out, because I know what it can do. So I think, besides my family, certainly my friends, my best friend, the people that hold you accountable, really.
I'll be part of that group.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to text you, Julissa, have you smiled today?
I love that. It really is those little things, let me tell you.
I actually am very good at that. I do that to my friends. I'm like, hey, I just hope you're having a good day. And they're like, you don't know how much I needed this today. Like, so.
Cheers.
Salud. Okay, now I need to ask the chisme stuff. Girl, you hosted those, those Jersey Shore things.
Yeah.
How freaking crazy were those? How are they in real life? Are they as crazy in real life as you see on TV? Or
it was pretty crazy, but I will say the most admirable thing about the cast, the original cast of Jersey Shore, and even anyone that's come after that, anyone that puts themselves out there in that way, the most admirable thing about them is just how they show up. So authentically themselves. There's no, I'm putting this on. There's no, the minute the cameras are up, it is what you see is what you get. And once you do that, it's opening up a can of worms. You can't go back. Mm-hmm. And I really find that to be something that not a lot of people can do. So yeah, it was crazy, but they're doing just great. I mean, a lot of them are still very much thriving, have had, of course, their ups and downs, but that was a long time ago. And the fact that we're still even talking about that, the fact that they're rerunning it. And
I mean, I don't watch any of the things. I'm not gonna lie. I stopped watching a lot of unless it's positive reality TV. I stopped watching.
Well, you can watch Serenata de las Estrellas on Roku.
There you go.
And there you can see me in a positive light with other really positive Latinos making moves and surprising their loved ones with a serenata.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Nice. Where's it on?
On Roku.
Oh, I have Roku.
Yes.
I have a Roku. I
Check
love
out Serenata de las Estrellas.
Okay, I'm gonna be like, hey guys, did you like this? You're gonna like this.
Yeah. It's a quick watch too. We only have a few episodes, so.
Lisa, thank you so much.
Of
I know
course.
this only took like 2 years, but I'm so glad we finally did this.
Yes.
I was telling Chris beforehand, I'm like, she is a host. She might be like, girl, you need to work on some stuff.
No, that is the beauty.
You're too down to earth, though, man.
Yeah. But that's the beauty of what you get to do. Thank you for that. But that's the beauty of what you get to do and how you get to do it your way nowadays. You don't have to go through journalism school necessarily. You don't have to.
I actually did though.
See? And I didn't. And I really wanted to.
But I graduated with my strategic communications degree, which is just a fancy way of saying PR.
Strategic communications. Well, you were very strategic and we made it happen.
That's right. So
and I
well,
survived.
we're gonna yes, she survived.
I was really concerned. I'm like, am I gonna drink too much? Like, is the wine me va a dar like midway from when we start shooting, and then next thing I know, I'm like lit on camera.
You got a TMZ
just
moment?
I don't know. Just
Yeah.
have a moment where, I mean, listen. Once you started off with your hair on fire, I think it can only go up from there. Right? Like, let's be honest.
Anyway, you were so calm about it too. But I must say, I'm a good person in those types of moments because I just grabbed your hand.
You sure did. I was like, oh, because by the way, let's light the candle or this one, another one, because the smell. I'm sure you guys can still smell it. The smell is.
I got
think it's
some.
dissipated.
Yeah.
Like, let me
But
get
see,
it.
that's a girl. I'm a down girl because she's like, my hair's on fire. She turned around and I just went.
Yeah, that was like just a stun that would work. She's like, I got you.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a feeling you did that, but maybe
In the
someone
Aquanet days.
not so much hair on fire, but definitely maybe holding it while someone is.
Oh, for sure.
What do they call it?
Oh, for
Hugging the
sure.
porcelain.
Yeah, porcelain god.
Yeah,
Praise to the
exactly.
porcelain god.
Oh, this is fun.
Yes. Yay, I'm so glad we finally did this.
know,
I had such a
same.
good time.
Likewise.
Hola mi gente, thank you for listening to this episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. If you would like to hear more wine and more chisme, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Saludos!